Good afternoon in UK, good afternoon in Italy. Today we have a match which counts for the 8th of finals of the Inter-University Law Debate Tournament 2025. This is the 8th edition. The two teams who are today in this match, they received the topic a week ago. Of course, this is another theme this time because we'll talk about as well endangered species, so a bit of animal law, a bit of as well as the human activities. The two teams qualified for the group phase. They came from two different groups, and they will this time have a discussion, argumentation, in order to be able to qualify for the quarterfinals. So before we move to the match, of course, give the floor to each student to introduce himself or herself to the judge, to the audience, and then we will be able to start the match. So I would like to give the floor first to Mr. Molinelli Gonzalez. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Arlange. My name is Jose Molinelli. I'm from San Juan, Puerto Rico, and I'm an LLM student at the University of Bologna.
Welcome. We have as well in Birmingham Mr. Shaban. Welcome.
Hello, good afternoon. From the University of Birmingham, I'm Madassa Shaban, a second-year law student at the University of Birmingham. Nice to be here.
Welcome. We have as well Miss Gülkan Ildis in Bologna. Welcome.
Hello, everyone. I am Güleycan, and also I am master student from University of Bologna.
Thank you, and welcome. We have as well Mr. Akhtar in Birmingham.
Good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, it's great to be here. I'm a second-year law student at the University of Birmingham.
Thank you, and welcome. We have Mr. Bayramov. Welcome.
Thank you a lot. I'm Mahmoud Bayramov. I'm from Azerbaijan and currently studying a master's degree at University of Bologna.
Thank you. Welcome. And finally, with Mr. Greer in UK.
Thank you. I'm currently a second-year law student at the University of Birmingham, and I'm glad to be here today.
Thank you. Welcome. We send greetings as well to your coach. So we send greetings because there is one in the room, so I will give the floor first before sending greetings. So welcome, Mr. Shakri.
Thank you very much, Mr. Laurent. Pleasure to be here, really.
Thank you, former participant and coach this year. Just at that moment, Mr. Mohar is connecting. So Mr. Mohar is a former participant from last year as well. Mr. Mohar, can you hear me?
Yeah, you're audible.
Yes, so yes, I give you the floor because we are just doing the introductions. So yes, you can introduce yourself as well. No. Well, Mr. Mohar is the coach.
Sorry, sorry. I had a connectivity problem. Yeah, my name is Saresh. I was a competitor for the University of Birmingham last year, and yeah, I'm helping to coach this year's team.
Thank you, welcome, and good to see the former participants indeed coaching the next teams. And as well, we send greetings to Miss Vorbey in Bologna, who will be watching, maybe watching at this moment on YouTube. So many thanks. So the topic which was sent to both teams was international law should recognize the right of endangered species to be protected from habitat destruction caused by deforestation and industrial activities. So the students, they don't know yet, we don't know yet which position they will have, either in favor, either against. I will share my screen. So we'll do the randomizing of the positions live. So normally you should see the double flags and logos of your respective institutions. Two chances, one chance to be in favor, one chance to be against for each team in this match. So I'm activating now the randomizer. That will be the University of Birmingham will be against the motion. As a consequence, that will be the University of Bologna will be in favor of the motion. So concretely, the University of Bologna will be starting the match defending the position international law should recognize the right of endangered species to be protected from habitat destruction caused by deforestation and industrial activities. While the University of Birmingham will defend the position that international law should not recognize the right of endangered species to be protected from habitat destruction caused by deforestation and industrial activities. So now you will have 5 minutes to review your notes, and then we'll be starting the match with the introduction by the University of Bologna. So we are done with the 5 minutes of preparation. I stop sharing my screen. Because we'll be starting the match, but before starting the match, I remind everybody, of course, the yellow card will be on my camera. So 30 seconds remaining in your speaking time when you will see it. And the red card when time is up concerning your speaking time. So now I will give the floor to the team of the University of Bologna. So for your introduction, Bologna's team, you have 4 minutes.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, picture this. You wake up in the morning and there is no sound outside your window. No birds chirping, no rustling leaves, no hum of nature. Just silence. You go for a walk and the ground beneath you, once teeming with life, is now barren. It is not a world you recognize anymore, and the worst part, you had the power to stop it. So what brought us here? Deforestation and unregulated industrial expansion. Human decisions that were allowed to run unchecked by international law. Therefore, we are here to defend the motion that international law should recognize the right of endangered species to be protected from habitat destruction caused by deforestation and industrial activities. My argument consists of 3 key points. First, I will demonstrate why current laws fail to protect endangered species. Second, the link between species survival and human well-being. And the third, the moral and legal imperative to recognize species right now. Now, opposing side may argue that we have treaties like the Convention on Biological Diversity and agreements like CITES, but these frameworks fail to address the critical gap. There is no recognition of inherent rights of species themselves. The law today treats the environment as a series of resources, but it has yet to recognize that these resources, these species, are not just resources for human benefit, but they are an irreplaceable part of a complex web that sustains life on Earth. The UN Framework Convention on Climate Change and its Paris Agreement emphasize the protection of ecosystems, but they do not acknowledge the urgent need for species protection. Our legal architecture protects the territory, but it doesn't protect the life within it, ignoring the truth that deforestation and industrial development are not just policy issues, but they are extinction engines. Now, allow me to move on to the second part of my argument. Here's the truth we can't ignore. Species survival is directly tied to human survival. Biodiversity is the foundation of clean water, is the foundation of food security, and disease resistance. These species are not some distant abstract concept. They are part of us, and we rely on them more than we realize. Now, to affirm this, let's take a look at the Rio Declaration Principle 1. It states that humans are entitled to a healthy life in harmony with nature, and that harmony depends on biodiversity. Without species, ecosystems unravel, leading to threats to clean water, food, and health. And this is not just environmental collapse, it's a human rights violation as affirmed by UN General Assembly Resolution 76/300, which recognizes the right to a healthy environment as a fundamental human right. And not just this, if you look at the UN Special Rapporteur on Human Rights and Environment, to be precise, David Boyd, has called for recognizing biodiversity laws as a human rights violation, undermining that the destruction of ecosystems and species are essential human rights violations, such as right to life, right to healthy environment. Now, moving on to the last part. The clock is ticking. The UN's main scientific panel on biodiversity reports show that over 1 million species are at risk of extinction. Just as we evolved a law to give rights to corporations, we must now evolve it to limit the systemic destructiveness of industrial and deforestation practices, not by banning development, but by balancing it by binding states, binding duties to protect endangered life. We must now extend this evolution to species, recognizing their rights to exist, to be protected from harm, and to be preserved for future generations. The Inter-American Court of Human Rights extended environmental rights to ecosystems, and now we must do the same for species that call those ecosystems home. So I ask you again, when history takes a look back at this moment, what will we say? That we let forests fall and rivers run dry for the sake of short-term industry, or that we found the courage to say no more species should go extinct, just to feed the hunger of unchecked deforestation and profit-driven expansion? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we hear as well the introduction on the side of the University of Birmingham. You have as well 4 minutes.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Good, ladies and gentlemen, the University of Birmingham stands opposed to the notion that international law should recognize the right of endangered species to be protected from habitat destruction caused by deforestation and industrial activities. We acknowledge the inherent complexities of balancing vital conservation efforts with the equally important principles of national sovereignty and the pressing demands of development. Therefore, we advocate for a more nuanced and pragmatic approach. Our opposition rests on two key pillars. Firstly, protecting endangered species can present economic and social challenges. Secondly, international law recognizing such a right could be perceived as a significant infringement on the sovereignty of individual states. Back to the first point. Mandating blanket habitat protection via international law risks substantial economic disruption and has adverse social impacts, especially in developing nations pursuing essential progress. A key example of this can be seen in England, where there are strong environmental protections for species, as outlined in the Wildlife and Countryside Act 1981 and the Environment Act 2021. All building projects are required to lead a 10% increase in biodiversity. And there are habitats designated as special scientific interests scientific interests which are legally protected, often to protect endangered species. This is highly problematic, as in 2024, the Labour government was elected specifically with the mandate that they should build 1.5 million homes. However, they have been unable to deliver this mandate due to restrictions on where they could build to protect endangered newts and bats. Despite 3% of the population living in overcrowded houses and 1.3 million waiting for social housing. And this is the impact of our opposition's motion on one of the world's most developed countries. Imagine the impact on the poorer nations with the other priorities. Moreover, the proposed international legal right fundamentally risks infringing state sovereignty, granting external bodies considerable influence over national land and resource management. National sovereignty has been a fundamental aspect of international law, and ever since its inception, this motion could generate resistance from nations prioritizing development, rendering the law ineffective and unenforceable, especially when balancing conservation with urgent needs for economic growth, poverty reduction, and infrastructure. State sovereignty enshrined in the UN Charter grants nations resource control, imposing international land use mandates for species protection can be viewed as a violation, potentially leading to non-compliance, especially in developing nations, where agricultural expansion drives over 85% of the threats to 28,000 endangered species, according to the UNEP. Furthermore, these expectations for countries to recognize this right and spend resource on this issue don't take into account that countries have other significant urgent issues to deal with, and is a harsh standard for countries with weaker economies, particularly countries in Africa and South America, where many of the endangered species reside. Requiring them to meet environmental standards set by wealthier nations can resemble modern colonialism, especially amidst global economic uncertainty and inflation. For example, in Somalia, up to 6 million people are in threat of dying from starvation. Why should countries like Somalia be forced to use limited resources to protect endangered species when it's more important to use these resources to protect human life? For these deeply considered reasons, the University of Birmingham respectfully but firmly opposes the notion that international law should recognize the right of endangered species to be protected from habitat destruction caused by deforestation and industrial activities. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we'll start the rebuttals. We'll start first with the first rebuttal on the side of the University of Bologna. You have 2 minutes.
Honorable Magistrates, it's very essential to consider that in the present we're not speaking about forcing countries to materialize inanimate and inexistent rights around the protection of endangered species. Rather, we're speaking about the affirmation and the expansion of an already existing framework of international law and treaties, which needs to be expanded so that the gaps in the practice be filled so as to suit not only the protection of the environment and habitats, but also of the millions of endangered species that currently exist in the planet. Why is there such an insufficiency? Yes, we must establish that international law currently has the CITES Convention, which extends protection to various endangered animals, but this convention only does so in the case of trade and trafficking. Moreover, we have the Convention on the Biological Diversity, which does provide state obligation for its signatory states for the protection of certain habitats and ecosystems within their jurisdiction. However, this convention has been widely viewed as simply persuasive, being that the states need to have a particular vested interest on choosing and have the option of deciding to choose or not if they want to defend a particular internal habitat. And moreover, it does concede them the prerogative to even view negative reports on certain state projects as obviable in front of economic interest. So what we're saying is that state action and state exploitation of economic resources in favor of a more abstract economic goal in the current international framework of area and species-based treaties often supersedes the protection of endangered species and habitats. As such, it is essential to establish that we're speaking of an insufficiency in the current framework of international law, which most states coincide that is an insufficiency that must be addressed, as has been seen in futurely discussed jurisdiction that we will present regarding the European Commission, and in the case of the United States cases as well that we will discuss. It is a matter of consensus in the international community. It is not a matter of what we should do or not do. It is a matter that we need to expand what is currently not working.
Thank you. Now we have the first rebuttal on the side of the University of Birmingham. You have as well 2 minutes.
Thank you. It seems to the University of Birmingham that fundamental to the University of Bologna's arguments in favour of this motion is that endangered species are necessary for human survival. Whilst there are undeniably many endangered species that do provide ecological value, it does not follow that this can be amalgamated to the argument that all species should be protected. And many species will cost far more to protect than the value that they provide. For example, ecologist Carl Safina cites the Eskimo curlew, which went extinct in the last century and had almost no perceivable wider impacts. This is problematic because in the UK, the government had to spend an extra £119.3 million on protecting only 300 bats' habitats when introducing a new high-speed railway in order to ensure their survival. This came out as an extortionate £366,000 per singular bat protected. This motion would replicate this across the world in countries who frankly lack the finances to achieve this. Furthermore, it's not even clear at what stage a species becomes endangered. In the case of Polar Bear Endangered Species Act listing in the USA, there was a 3-year challenge to the categorization of polar bears as being endangered species. This demonstrates the level of complexity in determining whether animals are endangered, and an international designation of animals as endangered will lead to a large increase in the number of legal challenges. And the opposition stated in their beginning that in the future there'll be no birdsong, there'll be no rivers. But frankly, that is clear hyperbole. And importantly, our opposition have entirely overlooked other ways of protecting species, involving relocation into alternative habitats or the use of wildlife sanctuaries. Carl Safina, the ecologist, states that rather than a law such as this, which sets a floor, measuring success as mere existence of a species once they become endangered, a wiser law would target an aspirational ceiling of robust, resilient populations across broad, intact scopes of wildlife, viable lands and productive waters. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we are moving to the second rebuttal. So I give the floor to the University of Bologna. You have 2 minutes.
Honorable magistrates, although we totally disagree with the idea that this is hyperbole in the face of growing economic and exploitative interest, we must establish that the arguments presented by the opposition are purely moral and political in basis in the context of a strong legal discussion. And the legal discussion is not necessarily around whether to protect or not to protect, it's how to make the current framework of species and environmental-based treaties effective for the purposes for which they've already been ratified. Moreover, states that have discontent with this framework need simply not sign them. So there's not an infraction on state sovereignty in a system based upon treaties of state consent. However, within the current application of the current treaties, we will insist that there is an insufficiency. The European Courts of Justice application on the European Commission's directions of environmental and habitat protection has in many occasions delivered in favor of economic interests over the protection of the environment, particularly in the case of Commission versus Germany, in the cases of the Lappel Bank case, and in the case of the WWF versus the Veneto region, all cases upon which the European Union determined that economic interest supersedes the protection of a particular endangered species. And now the question is, moreover, within the insufficiency of this framework, how is it that we will persuade signatory states of agreements that they have already ratified and signed to hold up their obligations, when it has already been noted that 15% of all signatory states regarding various various conventions on biological diversity have not ratified nor amended their approaches to the listing of certain endangered species and taken actions in favor of their protection. So we must establish that even though a series of populations in the process of extinction have been protected, since the year 2000, over 1 million populations have become critically endangered. The point right here is that we need to act to correct an existing system of international law, not negate its existence. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we have as well the second button on the side of the University of Birmingham. You have as well 2 minutes.
Sorry, I'm audible.
Yes, you are.
So, essentially, as the opposition has just argued, the sufficient framework is not sufficiently catered to this need. However, the problem is this motion is exactly the same. The problem with this motion is that it gets involved with the issue way too late. It only cares when the species becomes close to extinction, which many would argue, including American ecologist Carl Safina, is too late in the first place. Most of the damage has been already done. The approach was also implicitly criticized by the Endangered Species Act as they favor early preventive measures rather than a reactionary measure as displayed by this motion. For example, Section 2B of the Act states that the purpose of the Act is to conserve ecosystems that species rely upon, thus implying that intervention should occur before species become critically endangered. Therefore, we should instead be trying to build better, sustainable, and biodiverse habitats across countries rather than only for endangered species to nullify the issue at the start. Furthermore, another issue is that there are other ways to help resolve this issue without legally binding countries to do so. Another alternative is the use of relocation schemes by countries who have the sufficient resources to fund this, which have been quite successful in protecting endangered species. Successful examples include the bald eagle in the US, where population decline was occurring due to habitat loss, and therefore chicks and eggs were relocated into more protective environments with captive bred individuals being released. This resulted in a bald eagle being removed from the Endangered Species Act in 2007. Another even stronger example is the Arabian oryx, which in the 1970s became listed as extinct due to hunting. However, after the remaining few were relocated to zoos and then slowly introduced, it became the first species ever downgraded from extinct in the wild to vulnerable in the ICUN's Red List, which is an international critical indicator of biodiversity health. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we move to the conclusions. We hear first the conclusion by the University of Bologna. You have 2 minutes.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Dear audience, this is not a distant warning. It's happening now. Both my colleagues, Mahmoud and Jose, highlighted how existing international laws are insufficient to protect endangered species, and reality proves them right. According to the International Union for Conservation of Nature Red List, more than 47,000 species are now officially threatened with extinction. This is not just a number, it's a warning that our current legal frameworks are failing. The existing laws like CITES, the Convention on Biological Diversity, Paris Agreement were built to regulate resources, not to defend the right of life itself. The opposition argues that some species are not worth the cost, but who decides the value of life? And also my colleague Mahmoud explained with the special reports, and Jose showed through the examples involving Bolivia and Belize, today's legal system prioritizes human and economic interests, not the inherent rights of species. This legal gap leaves millions of lives vulnerable, unprotected, and silenced. And also, the opposition teams also concerned about why or how countries like Somalia protect species while people starve. The answer is so simple. Biodiversity is survival for clean air, for food security, and for clean water. Protecting species means protecting people. The UN has affirmed the right to healthy environment as a human right, and species survival is inseparable from that right. The law has evolved before to protect the rivers, forests, and even the corporations. It must evolve again to protect endangered species. And also, lastly, the opposition warns about burden and sovereignty, but there is no sovereignty and on a dead planet. Let us be remembered not for what we ignored, but for what we defended and life itself. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. Now we hear as well the conclusion on the side of the University of Birmingham. You have as well 2 minutes.
I'd like to thank the University of Bologna for their participation. However, to win this argument, they had to prove that all endangered species should have the right to exist and have their habitats protected. In order to do this, not only do they need to prove this right to exist, but also need to prove that habitat protection is the best way to achieve this. They have failed to do this. They even admitted themselves that it goes against established legal principles in the rulings of Bologna and Bollis, which state that economic rights should take priority. The opposition have stated that biodiversity is fundamental to survival, but this is not the case when states are currently unable to feed their own citizens. And even if it is the case that biodiversity is necessary for survival, it does not follow that the survival of all endangered species is necessary for the survival of humanity. And this has been proven by the University of Birmingham. The opposition have also ignored the arguments around relocation and alternatives. They've ignored the fact that not all animals do have this ecological value. And fundamentally and crucially, this motion leads to a trade-off with the cost of developments being stalled for minor endangered species. We have proven that this is a disproportionate trade-off which will affect all governments' abilities to meet the basic needs for their citizens. And it's for that reason that the University of Birmingham submits that they have failed to achieve the arguments that firstly, all species are worthy of protection, and secondly, that this motion would be the best way to do it. And so for that reason, we submit that this motion should be dismissed. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. We just heard the two conclusions. It means from now you are not under evaluation by the judge. So, now we'll collect, of course, your impressions about the match, about the topic, how you prepared this topic, and after we'll be doing a bit of networking. But first, I would like to hear from each of you. Yes, your impression on the match, performance of your team, the opposing team, the topic. So we start with Mr. Shaban. Professor Shaban.
Yeah, at the University of Birmingham, the topic was quite comprehensive because we had to anticipate international regulations and what there was not. Especially as the opposition, we had to look into complexities and consider what case law or what legislation we could use, or what we had to do quite deep research regarding that. And I think we did manage to do this quite well, and it was quite accommodating to hear that our opposition had arguments that we anticipated, and it shows that we were good on research.
Thank you. Mr. Molinelli Gonzalez, what do you think about the match and the topic?
Oh, thank you, Mr. Lorange. I'd like to begin by thanking the other team for mounting a great thematic opposition regarding the particular topics. I think that most of our discussion was really much tied around a really interesting discussion around a network of treaties, since there is not a single standard unit which one could claim is like the protection legal standard internationally for what could be considered endangered species. So it was really interesting to see the strong nexus both within our research and in the opposition's arguments about where do we draw the line between what should be as a political reality versus what is in the context of the law. And it's a really interesting bridge to cross thematically, and I feel very happy for my team's preparation and for the participation of the other teams. So it was truly an honor to be a part of this exercise.
Thank you very much. Mr. Akhtar, what do you think about the match?
I thought the match was great. I think this motion specifically underlined the issue in terms of how ethical obligations are used within the international law, and I think generally I would actually agree with this motion and not be debated against it within the actual debate. But I think that's interesting how we transfer ethical obligations into international law and prescribe it towards everyone in a way where everyone is enabled to fulfill that obligation and actually use it. So I thought it was a good debate to be part of.
Thank you. Mazalildis, what do you think about the match?
Firstly, I would like to thank you so much, opposing team. They came with very good points. And the debate on whether international law should recognize the right of endangered species, it was a really thought-provoking topic. it was a kind of, when we were studying with my teammates, we were making always brainstorming. And that was really good opportunity to understand this topic, especially in current days, from different perspective and in a deep way.
Thank you, thank you. And Mr. Greer, what do you think about the match?
Yeah, I think this was definitely the hardest match that we've been like. I watched the opposition before, and I was already scared having seen their previous debates. But yeah, I thought it was really enjoyable. I really enjoyed like the depth and the ability for this match to progress along and take in those other arguments. So yeah, I definitely really enjoyed this one.
Thank you. And Mr. Bayramov?
Well, I would like to join my colleagues to thank the opposing team as well. It was really competitive match, and I think that even though we have prepared a lot, we have researched a lot about this topic, but still it's really hard to decide which part of the debate is right, which part is wrong. So the topic itself is new for me, and I think for all the colleagues as well. So it was really interesting. Whatever happens, I wish good luck to opposing team, to our team as well. Very proud to be here.
Thank you. Mr. Moir, what do you think about the match?
Hi. So I'm just going to be honest and say, like, I've seen many teams this year and last year, and I think this Bologna team is one of the best, if not the best teams that I've seen. And Mr. Laurent will tell you that I don't say this for every team, but I think the Bologna team is really, really strong. And I think it was a high level. I think even the University of Birmingham, I think from the first round to now, I personally think they've improved a lot as well. So I thought this was really a very good debate between both teams. And I think it will come down to the team that the judges felt were more targeted in being able to adapt to the other team's cases and how you responded. So that's obviously up for the judge to decide, but I think both teams were really excellent. And if I may just add, as someone who just recently visited Italy on a holiday, seeing University of Bologna just makes me want to go back and eat all the great food. But that being said, I thought it was an excellent debate and both teams did really well.
Thank you very much. Mr. Shakiri?
It was a very entertaining match. I mean, the prompt of the debate was multidisciplinary. The fact that it involved concepts of power, ecology, ethics, morals, as well as the law. I would say vicariously that it was challenging to keep it strictly focused on the law for the University of Bologna team in order to be consistent with the spirit of the Hague competition. And I'm grateful in a way to the University of Birmingham for being ferocious and trying the University of Bologna at trying to keep such a good of a pace. And I just have to reiterate, it was a really good match.
Thank you very much. So yes, of course, now it will be up to the judge to provide as well as their assessment, evaluation. So what we do, of course, is that we inform before and we'll inform right after the match as well to remind that the match took place. So they know that, yes, from that moment they will have the 2 business days. And of course, one word concerning the topic of this round. So this round is about my expertise. So I teach animal law as well. So it was a pleasure for me to see as well how far you went in 1 week of research in a field probably that you never had in class. But not just animal law, and connected to as well other areas. So yes, all these rounds are connected to animal law, but as well migration law. And the next round will be another area of law, of course. And so yes, you will receive the results very soon from the 3 judges who are experienced judge in this competition, previous competition. And now we finish with a bit of networking. So yes, for this 8th of finals, we will ask you 2 things. What are the activities which are provided to students in your faculty department, let's say? So in order, of course, to foster your legal education, so it could be, for example, field trips, guest lectures, or career fairs, or maybe legal clinic, I don't know. So I will give each question, so the 2 questions to each team. So we start first asking the University of Birmingham, what are the activities that maybe the Allsworth, your organization or the faculty organized for the law students? Who wants to reply? Yeah.
In terms of activities, we have at the University of Birmingham we have many social clubs, many like sports clubs. We're quite proactive and have a reputation of being quite competitive in sports. In fact, we have Mikhail with us, who is a scholarship candidate for cricket, and and I think that's we're quite renowned for our sports. But alongside that, we have like societies of all types. Like you could get involved in anything you wanted. We have from dance society to football society to something like coffee society, like quite random. In fact, I won't be surprised. I haven't looked into it, but I won't be surprised if you have an ecology society.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want to add something, Mr. Akhtar or Mr. Greer, on the activities that maybe yourself you participate outside of this competition as well?
Yeah, I think one of the really great things is different law societies as well that we particularly have. So we're part of the Holdsworth one, but we've also got like a European one, we've got Asian one, we've got like women in law, we've got law for non-law students. And I think there's just like so many different things. Like if you want to get involved in something, there'll be a club for you. And also we have the ability that we can speak to any one of our lecturers. We can like book in an office hour. So like if there's a lecturer that we're interested in who does like, I don't know, conservation law, then we can go and we can just go and talk to them about their area of expertise. And I think that's quite unique.
Okay, very good. Mr. Akhtar?
I think I really like, we have an organization at the university called Kepler, which is essentially just a career services organization that really help us, whether that's negotiation competitions, internal debates, mock trials. Like we have a range of activities get involved in, specifically related to the legal profession. So I think that's a standout for me.
Okay, thank you very much. Same question now in Bologna. So, I don't know, Miss Yildiz, you want to start?
Yeah, thank you. My advice can be like, for example, in University of Bologna, we have law and literature clubs, law and sociology, law and history clubs. Those are kind of clubs, and they are not just focusing on law. They are, of course, focusing on, but they are trying to create collaboration with other disciplines. And really, it gives both critical perspective and it makes law students' perspective more broad. I can advise those kind of clubs, not just focusing on too much law area, because also law have kind of friendship with other areas.
Okay. Mr. Bayramov, maybe?
Well, I would focus on guest lectures, as you have said, Mr. Lorange, because, for example, it was recently that we had one of the judges from International Criminal Court that were attending one of our classes, and it was a really fruitful experience to be able to hear that person from that person live and asking questions, because we know that currently there are existing issues in international criminal law as well. Also, we had a lot of professors coming from US as well. I think the one thing that I love about the University of Bologna is that they prefer to have different approaches on one topic. So that's why they love bringing lecturers, professors from different parts of the world, so we can hear other parts of the story, not just from our own professor.
Okay, Mr. Muinelli?
I will definitely add to that by saying that the ecology at the University of Bologna, the student ecology, is really interesting. There is groups for law students that are really focused on research and writing, such as our law review. There's a legal society such as the European Law Student Society as well. And we also do have a lot of student syndicates in a way, which are pertaining to law, but at the same time are really hyper involved in civic matters throughout the city. Moreover, there is a variety of sports organizations. Actually, as a fun fact, Bologna houses one of the oldest fencing schools in the planet, and there's a particular fencing school called the Bolognese Fencing School, which started here. So if you're into medieval recreational sports, Bologna is kind of like a cool place to be at. And moreover, we do have all these societies which in a way resemble old medieval fraternities that in one way or another have a bit of their niche. For example, we have one that is that takes inspiration from medieval bards as well, and it's a really interesting ecosystem of student societies. But I would definitely say that there's something for everyone who seeks something within the variety of opportunities here at Bologna. And yes, we do have legal clinics, we do have internships, we have the possibility, like Mahmoud did about 2 weeks ago, about going to Rome to meet some law firms. So it's a really interesting student experience.
Okay, very good. Yes, those two universities, Birmingham and Bologna, have developed a lot of different activities by the students, for students as well, and to complement, of course, the activity of the professors. And yes, these are two old universities compared to the ones where I'm working, which 30 years old around. So yes, and Bologna is the oldest, the longest existing university still functioning in the world. So I can imagine medieval, let's say, activities have been as well has been existing already for a long time as well, for all generations of students. So yes, so the result of this match will be coming in a few days. As soon as we have them, of course, we'll let you know by email, and with the grading rubrics, and as well, depending on the result, we try to schedule the quarterfinals as soon as possible. Of course, with the result of the other match, I think you will be meeting the winner of the match between the University of Maryland and the University of the West Indies. So in any case, there will be 5-6 hours of difference between your teams and their teams, because they are on the same time zone. So yes, so that will be as soon as we get, of course, the results of your match and their match. There will be a networking event as well in 10 days, and as well a CV and cover letter and application workshops, not workshop, but let's say presentation, that is given here in The Hague to international law students, for those who want to work in internship jobs in international organizations based here in The Hague and elsewhere as well. So that will be proposed during the next days in May. We'll tell you much in advance, of course, before we schedule it. And of course, last question. What is the stereotype, what people say about people from Bologna and Birmingham, nationally and internationally? So in your opinion, so we start with Bologna this time. So what is said about people from Bologna in general in Italy or in the world, from what you heard? So who wants to answer?
I can go ahead and say that Bologna has a really particular political history, and during fascist times in Italy, many of the partigiani, be that the partisans, formed rebellions here in the city. So there's this political stereotype that if you're from Bologna or a student from Bologna, you're supposedly a red-leaning communist in a way, which is really funny. But moreover, there is this discussion where they say that when you look at Bolognese and Romanian food in general, that it is often very heavy, very cholesterol heavy, and things like that. So they call the city La Grassa, I mean, that like the fat city, which does not help my case, because every single day I go out to like eat this Bolognese food, which is amazing, and includes lasagna, tortellini, and many of the other things, and it certainly proves that it is my favorite culinary region in Italy. So these are two interesting stereotypes about Bologna that I would say are interesting to consider.
Okay. Are there some other, Mr. Bayermov, Miss Yildiz, you heard, which could be true or not true, huh? So I don't know.
Yeah, also I can add little kind of historical movements in history. They are so important. For example, when Jose was talking about the Bologna is Red City in the history, that's why it was so important for left sides parties or left sides people. Also, there were too much kind of student political movements because they were trying to, for example, defend their university, defend their educational rights. That's why it was so inspiring for me.
Okay. Mr. Bayramov?
I think my colleagues said it all, so I have nothing to add.
Okay. Thank you very much. And outside of Birmingham, how is it? What people say in UK about people from Birmingham or internationally?
I think Birmingham's got a negative reputation, which I think is unfairly given to it. But I've heard that Birmingham has the least sexy accent in the world. And also there's a reputation like you could get stabbed in Birmingham. But I have never been stabbed, and I don't think it's that bad. But yeah, we haven't got necessarily a great reputation within the UK, but I think it's unfairly deserved, and actually we're the heartland of the UK.
Okay. Mr. Actor, you want to add something?
If you're looking for a city to criticize, it's London, not Birmingham. Like, personally, I think Birmingham's great, but yeah, in terms of stereotypes, I think the big one is accents. No one likes the Birmingham accent at all. They did a survey actually in the UK. It was rated the worst, and then for no real reason, there's no explanation behind it either. It's just the Birmingham accent's bad. Sometimes it can seem a bit monotone, so you know.
Okay.
That's it.
Mr. Shaban?
Yeah, I think a stereotype of Birmingham is it's often seen as a third world country or perceived as that. But I have to say, if especially there are certain areas of Birmingham which are not the best, but the majority of Birmingham is really great. It's quite diverse. The city centre, where our university is located, it's quite really. It's really good. Like I love being here. I live an hour and a half away from my university, but like the area is really. The atmosphere is really nice, and you want to be around it. So, that's why I just travel every day.
Okay. I have to tell that the accent from Birmingham internationally is known, because when I was, I think, 15 years old, I heard that in France even. So because we had some teachers and they said, if someone tells you that you have an accent which looks like from Birmingham, it's not a compliment. It's what I remember when I was 15, a long time ago. So it's not just nationally, it's internationally. I heard about that. So thank you very much. Again, you will receive the results very soon. There will be as well some communication about asking if you want to come to The Hague to see the finals and do the visits. I know that Mr. Molinelli already did some visits, but yes, there are additional visits. And as well, we contact as well some ambassadors from the countries, of course, represented in the competition and even more. Simply because, yes, it's part of as well visiting The Hague as well to meet those ambassadors who are, most of them jurists. They have been appointed to represent their country in The Hague, particularly at this moment. This week, there are plenty of audience at the ICJ, because there are opinions given by the countries who want to give their opinions on some situation. So the whole week is full of all the countries who come to make their position in front of the judge. So yes, it's quite busy at this moment, ICC as well, but still, Kosovo Space Chamber, Peace Palace eventually, we chose actually to have the final at least 2 weeks before the NATO summit, which I saw this morning. They're already making some modification on some streets. I guess for this, I don't see any other reason. So that will be at the very end of June. So that's why before mid-June. So the finals will be on the 12th, and we'll be having some visits. So in any case, there will be a circulation by email of a form where you'll be able to tell if you want to come, and as well what you want to attend. And this will be for all the students from this competition and as well the French-speaking competition. So you will see as well the other debaters in French. So yes, in any case, soon I will share with you by email the gradient rubrics and then the result. And for the rest, wish you the best. And as you see, yeah, from the 8th of finals, all the teams are very, very, very good. So we advise you to watch as well the other match to see what they do. So yes, so for the moment I will leave you, and we keep in touch by email, and soon I hope for each of you for the quarterfinals, yes, as soon as possible. Voilà. So thank you again, and we keep in touch. Thank you.
Thanks
so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.